Ella Brooks had never been the type to step into a gym without a plan, or a clue, but something about the boutique fitness studio downtown called to her that morning. Maybe it was the quiet hum of determination, or the way sunlight pooled across the polished floors, making everything look brighter than her own self-doubt allowed. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the straps of her gym bag, feeling the weight of every doubt she'd carried in for years. That's when she saw him. Lucas Bennett. Handsome, tall, with a calm confidence that didn't need to announce itself. He was setting up equipment with a precision that made Ella's heart skip, not in fear but in curiosity. When their eyes met, just for a second, she felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. "Hi, you must be new," Lucas said, his voice smooth but inviting. He stepped closer, offering a smile that felt like a warm promise. Ella nodded, words catching in her throat. He gestured to the equipment and asked about her goals. She told him she wanted to feel stronger, healthier, more in control of her life. Lucas listened intently, nodding thoughtfully, his eyes never leaving hers. Then came the moment she would remember, a gentle correction of her posture. His hands barely brushed her shoulders, but it was enough to send a wave of awareness through her, not just of her body but of the electric connection threading through the room. By the end of the session she was sweaty, tired, and exhilarated. Lucas handed her a towel with a small, encouraging smile. "You did great today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow," he said. Ella walked out of the gym feeling lighter than she had in months, and a little intrigued by the trainer who had somehow made every inch of the room feel charged with possibility. The next morning, Ella found herself waking earlier than usual. Her mind kept drifting back to the gym, to the way Lucas had looked at her yesterday, calm and encouraging, like he already knew she could do more than she believed. She told herself it was just motivation, but deep down she knew it was something more. Walking into the studio, she noticed Lucas arranging the weights, his movements precise yet effortless. When he saw her, a small smile appeared, lighting up his face in a way that made her chest tighten. "Morning, Ella. Ready for today?" he asked. His tone carried no judgment, only reassurance. She nodded, trying not to stumble over her words. As the session began, Lucas tailored exercises to her abilities, pushing her gently, celebrating each small victory. "Perfect," he said after she lifted a slightly heavier weight than yesterday. Ella felt pride swell in her chest. His praise was simple, yet it lingered, making her realize that she liked how he made her feel, seen, capable, even a little admired. During stretches, he guided her hands into proper position, his touch fleeting but deliberate. "Just like this," he said, eyes soft with attention. For a moment, their hands lingered closer than necessary, and a warm flutter passed through her. She quickly looked away, heart racing, but Lucas only smiled kindly, giving her space while keeping her focus. By the end of the session, she felt something she hadn't expected: comfort. She could be herself here, unpolished and uncertain, and Lucas treated it like strength. As she wiped the sweat from her brow, he handed her water with a friendly nod. "See you tomorrow?" he asked. Ella's lips curved into a genuine smile. "Definitely," she replied. She left the studio feeling lighter, more confident, and curious about this man who had a way of taking time with every detail, every inch of the workout, and perhaps, she thought, every inch of her attention. Ella didn't know why she looked forward to her workout so much anymore. Maybe it was the sense of progress, or maybe it was Lucas Bennett who had a way of noticing everything, the smallest effort, the tiniest improvement. Today, as she entered the studio, she found a folded note tucked into her workout plan. "Great job yesterday. Keep pushing, you're stronger than you think." Her heart skipped. She hadn't realized how much a few words could linger, how much care could be wrapped in something so simple. She looked around, spotting Lucas setting up the dumbbells with that same calm precision. He caught her gaze, and the small smile he gave made her feel seen, really seen. The session began, and Lucas's attention never wavered. He adjusted her posture, reminded her to breathe, and praised every little effort. At one point, after a particularly challenging set, he stepped closer and offered a hug. It was brief, but it carried warmth, encouragement, and something more that made her pulse quicken. She felt safe in that embrace, and she realized that trust was growing between them, soft, steady, and undeniable. As they moved on to stretches, Lucas left another note for her to find during the cool-down: "Proud of you. You've got this." Ella smiled so wide she had to tuck the paper back into her folder carefully, almost afraid to lose it. By the time the session ended, she felt lighter, happier, and slightly giddy. Lucas handed her a bottle of water, his fingers brushing hers for a moment longer than necessary, just enough to make her heart flutter. Walking out of the studio, Ella held the note in her hand like a treasure, thinking about the way Lucas made even the smallest gestures feel monumental. She couldn't help but wonder how someone could care so deeply, even in such simple ways, and how her own feelings were quietly growing alongside his. Ella had been running errands downtown when she spotted him, Lucas, across the street, carrying a coffee in one hand and a yoga mat in the other. Her heart skipped. What were the odds? She considered ducking behind a display window, but curiosity won. Lucas looked up and caught her gaze. His smile was instant, warm, effortless, and it made her feel like she'd been caught in a beam of sunlight. Ella. Fancy seeing you here, he called, raising his coffee in a small salute. She laughed nervously, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. They decided to grab a quick coffee together at a nearby cafe. Over the warm drinks, the conversation flowed naturally, music, books, favorite hiking spots. It surprised Ella how easy it was to talk to him outside the gym, how comfortable his presence felt without any structured workouts or corrective guidance. "Do you come here often?" she asked, teasing slightly. Lucas chuckled. "Only when I'm lucky enough to run into someone I don't mind getting distracted by," he said, his eyes locking on hers. Ella felt a flutter of excitement but also a strange calm, like she could trust him even in this small, unscripted moment. As they walked back toward the street, Lucas noticed a narrow sidewalk crowded with pedestrians. He reached out and gently guided her with his arm around her shoulders, a protective and casual gesture that made her heart race quietly. For Ella, it wasn't just comfort. It was connection, the silent language of someone paying attention to every detail about you. When they parted, Lucas gave her a brief hug, warm, reassuring, lingering just long enough to make her smile dreamily as she walked away. Ella realized for the first time that their story wasn't limited to gym floors and routines. It was spilling into the world, and she was beginning to love every unexpected moment. Ella had been dreading today's session all morning. The new workout Lucas had planned felt intimidating even in her imagination. She arrived at the studio feeling tense, shoulders tight and stomach fluttering with nerves. Lucas noticed immediately, his eyes softening as he approached. "Morning, Ella. Ready to take on today's challenge?" he asked gently, placing a hand briefly on her shoulder. The touch was light, grounding her, and she drew in a deep breath. I think so," she admitted, her voice shaky but determined. As the exercises began, Ella struggled more than usual. Each movement felt heavier, slower, and her confidence wavered. Lucas stayed by her side, correcting her form with patience and encouragement. "That's it, Ella. You're stronger than you realize," he reminded her, his voice calm and reassuring. After a particularly tough set, she stumbled slightly, frustration flaring in her chest. Lucas immediately stepped closer and wrapped her in a warm hug. It wasn't just a congratulatory gesture. It was protective, reassuring, a silent promise that she wasn't alone in this. Ella felt the tension drain from her body as she rested her head briefly against his chest, realizing how much support she had in him. When they pulled apart, Lucas gave her a small smile. "See? You're doing amazing," he said. The words felt like sunlight cutting through clouds. Ella couldn't help but smile back, pride and relief mingling together. By the end of the session, she had completed every exercise Lucas had planned, and though her muscles ached, her heart felt full. Walking out of the gym, she realized that her strength wasn't just physical. It was emotional, nurtured by someone who believed in her every step of the way. Ella had been thinking about Lucas all day, how his smile lingered in her mind, how his calm encouragement made her feel capable in ways she hadn't expected. She wasn't sure when admiration had turned into something deeper, but sitting in the gym today, she felt a flutter of nerves she couldn't ignore. Lucas noticed her distraction immediately. "Something on your mind?" he asked, leaning casually against the equipment. His eyes were soft, curious, patient, like they had all the time in the world. Ella hesitated, her chest tight with both excitement and fear. I think I've been looking forward to seeing you more than just for workouts," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Lucas's expression softened into a gentle smile, a quiet relief washing over him. "Ella, I feel the same," he said, his voice steady and warm. He stepped closer and wrapped her in a long, comforting hug. There was no rush, no pressure, just the reassuring closeness of someone who genuinely cared. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, and for the first time she felt completely safe sharing her feelings. They pulled back slightly, smiling shyly at one another. "I guess we're more than trainer and client now," Lucas said, his hand brushing lightly over hers. Ella laughed softly, a sound full of relief and joy. The rest of the session passed in a blur of exercises, but neither of them could stop smiling. Every movement, every correction, every small gesture carried the new weight of mutual affection. When Ella left the studio that day, she felt lighter, braver, and hopeful. The walls she had built around her heart were slowly falling, and she couldn't wait to see what this connection would bring next. Ella couldn't believe she was actually going on a date with Lucas. Her heart raced as she waited outside the cozy little bistro he had chosen, the soft glow of the evening lights reflecting her nervous excitement. She tugged at the hem of her sleeve, silently wondering if she looked too eager, or maybe just right. Lucas arrived with that familiar calm confidence, a warm smile lighting up his face. "You look amazing," he said, offering a gentle hand to guide her inside. She felt her cheeks heat, a fluttering mix of anticipation and delight. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet, intimate. They talked about everything, their favorite books, childhood memories, funny mishaps, and laughed more than either had in weeks. It was effortless, natural, the kind of conversation that made time feel irrelevant. Ella realized how much she enjoyed just being near him, feeling his presence, hearing the steady cadence of his voice. After dinner, they walked along a lantern-lit path near the water. Lucas slowed, giving her space but keeping a protective presence beside her. At a quiet spot, he reached out, wrapping her in a warm, lingering hug. "I've wanted to do this all evening," he whispered, his arms firm but comforting. Ella felt the gentle pressure of the embrace, the reassurance in the way he held her, and it made her heart swell. "I'm really glad we're doing this," she said softly, resting her head against his chest. He pulled back just enough to look at her, eyes shining. "Me too. I've been waiting for a reason to spend time with you outside the gym, and I'm glad it's finally tonight." As they walked back, side by side, Ella felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of belonging, of being cherished. This was more than a first date, it was the beginning of something meaningful, tender, and real. Ella felt a flutter of nerves as she walked into the studio that evening. She had never shared much about her past, preferring to keep her insecurities tucked away. But something about Lucas made her feel safe, like her vulnerabilities wouldn't be judged. They would be understood. Lucas greeted her with his usual warm smile. "Hey Ella. You've been quiet today," he said gently, sensing her hesitation. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. I want to tell you something," she admitted softly. As she spoke, revealing bits of her past, her struggles with self-confidence, the moments she had felt overlooked, Lucas listened with unwavering attention. He nodded, never interrupting, his expression calm and encouraging. When she finished, her voice trembling slightly, he stepped closer and wrapped her in a comforting hug. It wasn't just any hug, it was a silent promise that she was accepted, seen, and valued exactly as she was. "I'm so proud of you, Ella," he whispered, holding her close. "Thank you for trusting me." Her chest tightened with emotion. The physical closeness was grounding, but the emotional closeness was transformative. She realized that this was what true intimacy felt like. Not rushing, not forcing, but showing up for each other in quiet, meaningful ways. Felt like. The rest of the session was easy, not forcing, almost showing up for each other in quiet, meaningful ways. Every word carried a new depth of trust. The rest of the session was easy, Lucas guided her through exercises with patience. Every word carried a new comforting rather than demanding. Lucas guided her through how naturally her confidence began to return. His presence comforting rather than demanding. By the workout, Ella noticed how naturally her confidence began to return. When the session ended, she hugged him not just by the workout, a long, by the connection they shared that left them both smiling. When the session ended, she hugged him one more time. Ella felt lighter, braver, and more certain than ever that she had found someone who truly understood her. Walking home, Ella felt lighter, at the gym, feeling more certain than ever that she had found someone who truly understood her. Ella arrived at the gym feeling a miscommunication about scheduling. A minor misunderstanding from the previous day lingered in her mind. She tried to push it aside, but nerves scheduling that had left her unsure of slightly hesitant. She tried to push it immediately, but nerves crept in, making her movement slightly hesitant. "Hey Ella." Lucas noticed immediately, he asked gently, stepping just enough to show concern. She hesitated, unsure how to explain, "You okay?" But the familiar warmth in his voice made it easier. She hesitated, unsure how to explain, but the familiar warmth in his voice made it easier. Lucas nodded, his expression calm. "I just felt a little confused yesterday. Thank you for telling me," she admitted softly. "Let's sort it out," he said. Lucas nodded. There was no anger, no defensiveness. "Thank you for telling me. Just understanding. Let's sort it out." They talked through the misunderstanding. There was no anger, no defensiveness. Intention. Just understanding. The conversation was quiet through the misunderstanding, a reminder that trust wasn't just about words. The conversation was quiet, showing up for each other. A reminder
Afterward,
that trust
Lucas
wasn't just
offered a
about
hug,
words.
long and
It was
comforting.
about listening and
Ella
showing
felt
up
the
for each
tension
other.
melt away,
Afterward,
replaced
Lucas
by
offered a
reassurance
hug
and a
long
renewed
and
sense of
comforting.
connection.
Ella felt
See?
the tension
We're
melt away,
stronger together,
replaced by
he
reassurance
whispered.
and a renewed
She
sense
nodded,
of connection.
a smile spreading
See?
across her face.
We're stronger together.
The rest of the session was
whispered.
easier than expected.
She nodded, a smile
Exercises
spreading
flowed
across her
naturally,
face, punctuated
the rest
by
of the
small
session was
gestures of
easier than
encouragement.
expected.
A hand on her back for
Exercises flowed
support,
naturally,
a gentle high
punctuated
five,
by small
another
gestures
warm
of
hug after a
encouragement.
challenging
A
set.
hand on her back for
Each
support,
moment
a
reinforced
gentle
what they
high
already
five,
knew.
another
Their
warm
bond
hug
wasn't just
after a
about
challenging
attraction.
set.
It was about
Each moment
care,
reinforced
respect,
what
and
they
shared
already
trust.
knew. Their
When
bond
Ella
wasn't
left the
just about
studio that
attraction.
evening, she
It
felt
was about
quiet
care,
pride.
respect, and
Not
shared
in the
trust.
workout itself,
When Ella
but in
left
the
the
way they
studio
had
that
faced the
evening,
small
she felt
challenge
a
together
quiet
and come out
pride.
closer on the other
Not
side.
in the workout itself,
The connection
but
she
in the
shared
way
with
they had
Lucas
faced
felt
the small
steady,
challenge together
unshakable,
and come
and
out
real,
closer on the other
ready
side.
for whatever came
The
next.
connection she shared
The
with
gym had
Lucas
never
felt
felt
steady,
more special than it
unshakable,
did that
and
morning.
real, ready
Sunlight
for whatever
spilled
came
across
next.
the polished
The
floors,
gym had never felt
highlighting
more
every
special
corner
than it
where
did
Ella
that
and
morning.
Lucas had shared
Sunlight
laughter,
spilled across the
encouragement,
polished
and quiet
floors,
moments of
highlighting
connection.
every corner
Today
where
wasn't
Ella and
about
Lucas had
workouts or
shared laughter,
schedules.
encouragement,
It was about
and
celebrating
quiet
how
moments
far
of
they had come
connection.
together.
Today wasn't
Lucas
about
greeted
workouts
Ella
or
with that
schedules.
familiar, warm
It was about
smile,
celebrating
the
how
one
far
that
they
had
had
first
come
caught her
together.
attention months
Lucas
ago.
greeted Ella
You
with
ready?
that familiar,
He asked
warm
softly.
smile.
Ella
The one
nodded,
that had first
feeling
caught
a
her
flutter of
attention months
excitement
ago.
in her chest.
You ready? They
He
spent
asked
the morning
softly.
moving through their
Ella
usual
nodded,
routine,
feeling a
but
flutter of
today the
excitement in her
exercises were
chest.
lighter,
They spent the
punctuated by
morning
laughter,
moving through their
playful
usual
encouragement,
routine,
and
but
gentle
today the
touches that
exercises
spoke
were
louder
lighter,
than words.
punctuated
After
by
each
laughter,
set,
playful
Lucas would
encouragement,
wrap her in a
and
warm
gentle
hug,
touches that spoke
lingering
louder
just
than
long
words.
enough to remind her how
After
valued
each
she
set,
was, how much
Lucas
she
would
cared.
wrap her in a warm
Finally,
hug,
they sat together
lingering
near the
just
floor,
long enough to
catching their
remind
breath.
her how valued she
Lucas
was,
took
how
her
much he
hands in
cared.
his
Finally,
gaze
they
steady
sat
and
together
full of
near the
warmth.
floor, catching
Ella,
their
these
breath.
past months,
Lucas took
I've
her
cherished
hands in
every
his,
moment.
his gaze
You've
steady and
inspired
full
me
of
as
warmth.
much as I hope I've
Ella, these
inspired
past
you.
months, he said
I've
softly.
cherished every moment.
Ella smiled,
You've
her eyes
inspired me as
shimmering.
much as I hope
I never
I've
imagined
inspired
someone
you,
could
he
make me
said
feel this
softly.
understood. Ella
This
smiled,
safe,
her eyes
she
shimmering.
whispered. I never
Lucas
imagined
leaned in,
someone could
wrapping
make
her
me
in a
feel this
long,
understood.
heartfelt hug.
This safe,
I want to take
she
every
whispered.
moment with you,
Lucas
every
leaned
day,
in,
every
wrapping
inch
her
of
in
this
a
journey
long, heartfelt
together,
hug.
he murmured.
I want to take
The
every
embrace
moment
wasn't
with
just
you,
comfort.
every day,
It was
every
a
inch
promise,
of this journey,
a vow of
together,
care, trust,
he
and
murmured.
love.
The embrace
As they
wasn't
pulled
just
back,
comfort.
hands still
It was a
intertwined,
promise, a
Ella
vow
felt
of
a
care,
sense of
trust,
certainty
and
she
love.
had never known.
As they pulled
The
back,
connection they had
hands still
nurtured,
intertwined,
through encouragement,
Ella felt a sense
laughter,
of
small
certainty she had
gestures,
never
and
known.
heartfelt hugs.
The connection they had
grown
nurtured
into something
through
beautiful and
encouragement,
unshakable.
laughter, small
Walking
gestures,
out of
and
the gym
heartfelt
together,
hugs side by
had
side,
grown
they
into
knew this
something
was only the
beautiful and
beginning.
unshakable.
Their story wasn't
Walking
just
out of
about
the gym
workouts
together,
or first
side
sparks.
by side,
They
it was
knew
about
this was
two
only
hearts
the beginning.
finding a forever in
Their
each
story
other.
wasn't just about workouts or first sparks. It was about two hearts finding a forever in each other.